This guy will be a little bit trickier out on the line there. Just have to, that's burnt right onto the conductor. You can see the actual insulation was melting as well. So I'll cut back on that, put a bit of a space in it and redo that connection as well. Alright guys, so a bit of an interesting call here today that I want to walk you all through. An emergency call came in saying lights dim and bright. Now when the lights go dim and bright, and what I mean by bright is not just going back up to their regular strength, but above normal brightness. You could really see that with the old incandescent light bulbs if there was a broken neutral. So arriving to this call, I'm essentially looking for a broken neutral. Talked to a few of the neighbors and none of them really noticed any issues. So I followed our regular troubleshooting process. Let's actually take a walk out back. So one of my first observations was there is a new service. It used to be an old 100 amp service. It was upgraded to a 200, so it does have the 250 MCM aluminum wires, 1/0 triplex, going down of course to a meter, all a fairly new install. Looking up at the poles in the backyard, it's all aluminum conductor. Connections look good. Neutral, the hot connections. When you have an aluminum to aluminum connection, like that neutral there, it's not common for them to go bad. Typically it's on a copper to aluminum connection. Talked to a few of the neighbors, nobody else seemed to be having any trouble. So what we did was pull the meter and we reinstalled, we took the faceplate off, reinstalled the meter, and were able to check for voltage while there was load. If you're going to detect a bad neutral, there has to be load, an unbalanced load, in order to test for that. So we had about 15 amp on one hot, and there was only 2 amp on the other, so we had a good unbalanced load, and voltage was good. We had 121 volts from phase to ground, or from hot to ground on both sides. Thought there's a chance it could be an isolated problem within the panel, and also maybe it was the recloser acting up. As I've explained in many calls, sometimes these lights dim and bright aren't actually lights dim and bright calls, but they're flickering lights calls, which could be normal system behavior when that recloser goes off and back on in the event of a fault. Could be an animal, could be a tree hitting the lines. So I did talk to the individual that lives here. He works for the fire department, and he was pretty clear on the problem, and he's pretty well versed in this stuff, especially given his trade. So he said the lights didn't quite go brighter than normal, the voltage kind of seemed to dim down, so that helps a bit. So my next step, I wanted to trace the lines out, and we actually found the transformer. We're going to hop in the truck and drive to the next street over and have a look at the transformer. This is an old neighborhood. Talking loud because I'm assuming where my phone's sitting. There's probably a lot of vibration and noise. But yeah, an old neighborhood. Everything here is backlot construction. It can be a nightmare to work on stuff, especially over the years as people build patios and gates and barns and sheds and garages, whatever. But as soon as I looked at the transformer, the problem was pretty obvious. Now, one of the big hazards, obviously we're going to have to climb this pole to make repairs. There's a tree right there growing beside the pole. That's going to be a problem. Let's hop out and have a look. So there's our pole. You can see it's going to be quite a challenge to climb. Unrelated to that, those branches they're pretty much touching the high voltage, touching the secondary. It's an absolute mess. Regardless of finding something or not, we've got to get rid of that entire tree right there. Now I'll try to get an angle looking through these branches right about here. If we zoom into the can, see that connection? That's not a neutral, that's a live connection, 120 volts. We see some arc flash marks around the transformer, a bit of melting on the connection. Crimpet cover is completely gone for whatever reason. And if you follow that lead up, it's going to that blue wire. That's a live wire, 120 volts. Pretty much touching the steel. So anytime that flashes over, that's a pretty big fault. It's gonna drag down that voltage. That's what the customer was seeing. So we're gonna have to splice in a piece of wire, get a bit of extra slack in that transformer, and put a new connection on that. Make sure it gets covered up. Identifying the hazards of this job. We're gonna have to remove that tree, and also we don't want to messing around with that connection live. Simply shaking that pole, even if I were to kick that guy wire, we'd probably see the arc flash. I'm not gonna do that. But in order to control these hazards, for one, we're gonna remove that tree. And two, we are gonna open the cutout feeding that transformer and make those repairs while the power is shut off. So if this was a tree call, let's say the tree leaned over and landed on the customer's loop, our policy is, for one, it's not our tree, customer owned tree. We would remove that tree for safety reasons, but we don't do any cleanup. We drop the tree across the lawn and carry on with our day. This situation here, the tree is more collateral damage. Somebody on the next street over called with an issue. I've found a problem. In order to address that problem for our safety, and also just for the simple fact this tree is going to come down, we're going to take it down. But speaking to the management in the tree department, we both figured it best to get a tree crew here and get this guy chipped up. I don't want to drop that tree down and just lay it across this person's backyard who currently isn't home, for them to show up and have that kind of surprise. So I'm just waiting for a call back from the foreman. I'm going to need a second guy on site here to climb up that pole and make those repairs, also to cut this tree down, and I'm waiting for a call back from a tree crew, see if we can get a chipper here. I can take care of that tree on my own, no problem. If they're freed up, they can come by and do the cutting for me as well. If they do the cutting where that's right up into the live stuff, I'll have to do some stick work and make things a little safer. Even though they are utility arborists, that's in too close a proximity to the primary high voltage wires. That's 7200 volts phase to ground, 12470 phase to phase. Also, some of those branches, really hard to see here, but the branches actually grew up in between the wires. You can see the red wire and the blue. There's some branches growing right up in between. This is a pretty dramatic tree growth into a transformer. It's not typical to be this bad without having been broken or anything. So, interesting job, nothing major, it's all fairly easy repairs, just a matter of getting a few extra people here, and we'll also get some shots of the work. So just had to pause the video there for a sec. Turns out the customer was home. I knocked on the door earlier, but must come home. Kind of give her a heads up of what we're doing, and all good. She was very, very happy with the service. So I'm going to pause the video until we get some crews here, and as I mentioned, we'll take you guys along for the ride. Yeah, I try to sneak it right in there without shaking that tree, because right here. That connection's right on that transformer.
Might have to line line me up with the hook.
Yeah, I can kind of see it here.
Close, eh?
Yeah, just an inch. Okay, you're right at the right height. Just bring it back away from the cutout a little bit. Yeah, you're in it right now. No, gonna go up a bit. Right there, yeah. Up about half an inch.
Feels like I'm in it.
Give her a try.
You're button up on the bottom of it.
There you go.
Good load.
A little load on that one.
Break that branch.
You're almost there. Yeah, looking good.
But you can't get it over because that fucking branch right there.
That's what she said.
Oh, can I break that?
If you twist your stick and come in from the top, it might work too. Yeah. Oh, come on. You got her.
What's that?
Want to use the AV count?
Well, I just brought that in case we needed to pull something away, or so you can.
Just pick away at branches from bottom to top right now, eh?
Well, yeah, you want to get those. Anything around the top part, you want to cut those as small.
You can. They can probably take that in one shot right in through the chipper. Yeah, you can really see where that crimpet was hitting. All over the can. So we've got everything pretty well opened up here now. There's the connection. Got some messed up stuff going on with the light here. But the connection that was burning and where it was hitting the can, you can see it all pitted. But we did see something else. That guy right there, that's probably actually the one that was causing the problems right there. See the crimpet cover is melted right off, so we're gonna have to change that connection while we're up there as well. Everything else looks good, newer style cutout. All the other connectors looking pretty good shape, and we got that tree out of there. So clearly that's where the crimpet was making contact with the transformer right there. You can see it was taped up with, we call it sap tape, as opposed to a crimpet cover. So in this particular job, it's not necessary to use grounds on the transformer bushings because he's not going near the primary side, the primary bushing or the cutout. Also, he's not wearing his rubber gloves because we did remove the tap, and he's got more than enough clearance with himself and the tools he's using to maintain his 2 foot 1 inch clearance. Lots of slack left in that 4/0 lead, so he was able to do a quick cut, and just gonna redo that one connection. This guy will be a little bit trickier out on the line there. Just have to, that's burnt right onto the conductor. You can see the actual insulation was melting as well. So I'll cut back on that, put a bit of a space in it, and redo that connection as well. Just while Ben's up there doing that connection, bit of a change of plans across the street. We've got one of our guys, there's a priority customer. A customer can apply for priority status if they have a medical situation, somebody's on oxygen or something, to be considered during any outages. So he's off the transformer we opened. This transformer up here only feeds the church, 400 amp entrance underground. There was a lot of room left for load on that transformer. There was an available 32 kilowatts, space is 75 kVA. So he's just up there cutting over the connections to feed those houses onto this transformer. It's not going to change a whole lot, but moving forward, if there's ever an issue, this guy back lot takes a lot longer to work on. Where you have to climb. That guy there is truck accessible, so it'll just be easier access if there's any issues for that customer. Also a lot lighter load. This is still tucked up in the trees, so there is some squirrels and animal issues at times. That one there feeds the church, and now our priority customer, so there's a lot less likelihood of there being an event to occur that would blow the fuse on that transformer. So just looking at his positioning on the pole, where we do have that riser on the cutout removed, that lead we call it, he's got more than enough room from the high voltage. If we hadn't removed that lead off the cutout in this working position, he would be required to wear his class 2 20 kV gloves because he can violate that 2 foot 1 inch clearance. It's important to remember that 2 foot 1 inch clearance is not just from your body or your head or your arms, but it includes any tools that you're using. So if you are swinging around a set of bolt cutters and they can encroach that minimum approach distance, then rubber gloves are required.
Yeah.
Okay. Power shut off?
Yeah.
Okay. My daughter just texted me. Are you at my house yet? Why is there no power?
Oh.
Why is it outside? It might be why.
Yeah, he'll be done in another 10 minutes or so.
Okay, the cameras are offline.
That's what I figured, yeah.
Then I thought, I hope they're still there. 'Cause I think we're clean.
A really great addition to a trade is all these battery powered tools. Makes things a lot easier on your back and elbows and whatnot, especially cutting copper wire. Just going to cover up all that exposed conductor. he will be using a piercing connector to make this connection. However, on 4/0 copper wire, the insulation, it is extremely thick. So he's going to shave off that insulation before making that connection.
Heads up.
Yep. You'll notice here also a real good technique for skinning wire. It's really tempting to pull towards you. This wire can be extremely hard to skin, but those knives are also very, very sharp. It can kind of hang up in the insulation, and next thing you know, that blade comes back towards you. So this fella up in the pole here now, his name is Ben, and for those of you that follow, he's got quite an exciting trip tomorrow morning, heading off to the World Series. Ben's a huge Dodgers fan, eh?
No, go Jays.
Go Jays. That's gonna be pretty cool. Game 2 you got tickets for, eh?
Yeah, me too.
Nice. Another thing to mention as well is positioning on the pole. You can see here, people often talk about keeping your legs locked and away from the pole. Oftentimes, a great working position is to have all your weight. You can see his weight is all on his left leg. He's got that leg locked. Just taking a break from the noise there, but he's got his left leg locked and angled away from the pole, so there's virtually no way that gaff can come out of the pole. And then his right leg, he just got that sitting on the telephone line just for stability. There's not a whole lot of real estate left on that pole to have both legs planted in place. Biggest thing when working around the telephone in a position especially like this, you want to make sure that gaff, you can see he's got his foot lengthwise and the gaff is overhanging empty space. You don't want to gaff into those cables. There's some coax up there. There's some fiber op. This little wire here is a fiber op. Usually they're tagged, an orange tag like that. So he's got his new connector there, that's well away from the can. And also a new connection up on the main line secondary. And he's got that all taped up and covered up real good, so there won't be any more issues. Just dropping his hand line down here now to get some rubber gloves and get a hot stick. I'm gonna tap that back on from up in the air as opposed to from on the ground.
Pour it out.
Yep. Got it. We just picked these tool lanyards up actually. They're real great for these tools. We got them from Milwaukee. Short little lanyards, hang off your belt. Make sure you don't drop your tools. These aren't rated for rescue or anything like that. They're rated for 15 pounds or 10 pounds or something. Great little additive for our tools. You want the grab all and your rubber gloves?
Yes, please.
Okay. Got Sean here working away. Swapping those connections over. Alright, so just had to pause the video for a minute to tie some gear onto his line. So very important here when he's tapping that on, you got to keep in mind you're going to be energizing the top of that cutout, so you want to use the entire stick. You want to keep as far away from that as possible, maintain your 2 foot 1 inch from that cutout, from the top of the cutout I should say, which he definitely has from the energized part of that cutout. Also, when you're doing this kind of work off a pole, his legs, his body, there's all kinds of second points of contact. So it's Very important to use a tested stick. Make sure it's clean. Use your 20 kV rubber gloves. There's 2 lines of defense in doing so. If the gloves were to fail, which you saw at the start of the video, he tested them. They're not expired, checked for any pinholes. If the gloves were to fail, he can still rely on the insulation of the stick. So you can see here, he really is using the entire length of that stick to keep as much clearance as possible. And you'll see here as he's tightening that up, he is constantly giving that a little bit of a wiggle to make sure it is seated well in that tap clamp so it doesn't bite sideways. It's an older style press-on stirrup. Nowadays we use the bolt-on type that can easily be installed and removed with a stick. You could close that transformer in from the pole. You would have to climb down a few steps. You want to be a good 10 feet away at least when closing those cutouts. Just a whole lot safer to close it right from the ground. So obviously we're going to opt to go in that direction. Just a quick look at some of the tools we use. That's the blade that was on the stick when we were doing the majority of the tree trimming. They easily attach to any hot stick, and this is a hammerhead attachment. It can be used to open and close cutouts. The regular hammerhead, this guy here, works much better. They actually brought out the wrong one. The other one, it's probably around here somewhere, just has doesn't have the mushroom tip, so that's what slid into the tap clamp. In order to set that back in here and have a controlled release of that. Actually a shot right here of the other end, you can see what I mean, or doesn't have that mushroom tip, so it can easily slide into a tight space, and the guy just threw some tape on it as a little stopper there.
You're gonna jam up.
Is it?
Yeah, it's gonna hit that bottom part, I think. I think you try it. Here you go. Oh, there you go.
I just did it fast.
Yeah.
I just threw it in there. One last thing I do want to mention here, guys, and this, again, it's totally not sponsored, but this ladder, Little Giant Sumo, we bought this, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, and you can see the way these legs are staggered on the uneven ground. Absolute best ladder I've ever used. Where the ladder is 3 years old, one of the concerns the guys had would have been construction areas, dirt and grime getting into the rungs, but it operates very smooth. Lift the weight off, bring those legs back up in place. Also, for a fiberglass ladder, it's very lightweight. That's looking a whole lot better than it did. Still quite a few trees in the area, but as for the urgent stuff, it's all taken care of. And of course all the limbs and stuff, crews on their way with a chipper truck. You want to angle all the butts of the limbs towards the road, that way they can just drag it off the lawn and straight down into their chipper. Alright, so that went really well. The tree crew already came by, they got that all chipped up, everything's cleaned up, connections, 2 connections were fixed up on the pole there. Just in time to have another trouble call come in. So the only last thing I didn't show on camera was I did already call the dispatcher back and let them know that power's back on, transformer's closed back in, but also that we move some connections over for that priority customer. And turns out the reason that priority customer's account didn't flag when I called in to open the transformer on the system, they were already showing that transformer, which was easy enough. Actually, a thing that you really got to watch out for in the field. So that's the transformer it was showing the customer on. Somebody made the mistake when they were writing everything out, but those secondary wires went right past that transformer over to the one we were working on. So now we've got an open point. We disconnected those lines from the transformer we're working on and swung them around onto that transformer. So it now aligns with what's actually in the field. Doing stuff like that, guys, you can't just go cut over lines to whichever transformer you want. You have to make sure that the rating of the transformer, according to the engineer's diagrams, is appropriate for how much load is on it, how many houses, the size of the entrances. So I did touch base with our engineering department, and they confirmed that we could swing that over. And as I mentioned, also on the system, it already was there. So everything worked out perfectly. And just in time to have another call come in. Doesn't look like it's anything interesting. Another tree call. Rotten tree broke and laying on the line pole to pole. So super standard trouble call. Not gonna bother gathering any footage on that unless of course we get there and it's something wild. We'll put that to accepted. That's it. I'm gonna grab coffee. Haven't stopped for lunch yet. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I might grab a little sandwich or something at the store and we'll head on our way. As usual, thanks for stopping in, guys. Much appreciated. I know I promised that repelling the bucket rescue video. I just haven't had an opportunity set up yet. I do have to have a second person on site for a backup rope when I do that. I promise you all it will be coming very soon. See you guys.